destiny was being forged in fire and ambition. This is the story of Zahir-ud-Din Muhammad Babur, a descendant of the great conquerors Timur and Genghis Khan. After years of relentless struggle for his ancestral lands, Babur turned his gaze south to the fabled riches of Hindustan. In 1526, with a heart full of resolve, he crossed the formidable Hindu Kush and marched towards the ultimate prize, the throne of Delhi. On the vast plains of Panipat, the stage was set for a confrontation that would alter the course of Indian history. Babur's invading force was a mere fraction of what awaited them. Facing him was the formidable army of Ibrahim Lodi, the Sultan of Delhi, a colossal force of over 100,000 men and 1,000 war elephants. Lodi, confident in his overwhelming numbers, expected a swift victory. But Babur was a master of strategy, a student of modern warfare. In the days leading up to the battle, he prepared a revolutionary defense. He arranged hundreds of carts, tying them together with leather ropes in the Ottoman Arabah style, creating a fortified barrier. Between these carts, he placed his most decisive weapon, cannons and matchlock gunners. As dawn broke on April 21st, the earth trembled as Lodi's army advanced. The Sultan unleashed his terrifying war elephants, hoping to crush Babur's lines. But they were met with a storm of fire and thunder. The Mughal cannons erupted, their roar echoing across the plains, a sound of death unseen in India. The terrified elephants, driven mad by the noise, turned back and stampeded through Lodi's own ranks, sowing chaos and destruction. With the enemy charge broken and their forces in disarray, Babur unleashed his masterstroke, the Tulukma. His elite cavalry, concealed on the flanks, swept around and enveloped the larger Delhi army in a deadly pincer movement. Pinned against the fortified center and attacked from both sides, the Sultan's massive force was trapped and systematically decimated. In the heart of the brutal melee, Ibrahim Lodi fought and fell. His death shattered the morale of his army, leading to a complete rout. The battle, which had lasted only a few hours, was a decisive victory for Babur. Entering Delhi in triumph, Babur laid the foundation for one of the greatest empires in history. The Mughal dynasty had begun.
He was the son of a conqueror, the heir to a new and fragile empire. But his name, Humayun, meaning the fortunate, would become a profound irony. Ascending the Mughal throne in 1530, he inherited not just a kingdom, but a host of challenges, including the ambitions of his own brothers. While Humayun, a man of culture and intellect, dreamed of building cities of knowledge and charting the stars, a storm was gathering in the east. His name was Shah Jahan, a brilliant and ruthless Afghan leader who saw the emperor's scholarly pursuits as weakness. In 1539, at the Battle of Chausa, Shah dealt a stunning blow. A surprise attack during a monsoon storm shattered the Mughal camp, and Humayun himself barely escaped with his life. The following year, at Kanauj, the fate of the empire was sealed. A demoralized Mughal army was swept aside, and Humayun was forced to flee, not just the battlefield, but India itself. An emperor had become a fugitive. Thus began a grueling 15-year exile. Humayun wandered through the unforgiving deserts of Sindh, betrayed and hunted. It was during this desperate time, in the sanctuary of Umarkot Fort, that his son and heir, the great Akbar, was born. His journey eventually led him to the sophisticated court of Persia, where he sought the aid of Shah Jahan. The price of an alliance was high, his conversion to Shia Islam, but it gave him the army he desperately needed. With his loyal general Bairam Khan at his side, the long road back began. First, he had to reclaim his authority, seizing Kandahar and Kabul from his own treacherous brothers. By 1555, a hardened, battle-tested Humayun was ready to reclaim his birthright. At the Battle of Sirhind, his forces decisively defeated the last of the Suri dynasty. And after 15 years in the wilderness, Humayun triumphantly re-entered Delhi. His fortune had finally turned. But fate is often cruel. Just 1 year after regaining his empire, on a cold evening in January 1556, the emperor was in his library, the Shir Mendel. Hearing the call to prayer, he rushed to descend the steep stone stairs. His foot caught in his royal robe, and he tumbled to the ground. The man who had survived battles, deserts, and betrayals met his end in a simple, tragic fall. Humayun's life was a dramatic cycle of loss and recovery, a testament to his incredible perseverance, leaving a restored empire on the brink of its golden age.
He ascended a throne that was barely a throne at all. In 1556, at the tender age of 13, Jalal ud-Din Muhammad Akbar inherited an empire in name only. His father Humayun was dead, and the capital Delhi had been captured by the formidable Hindu general Hemu. On a simple brick platform, the boy was crowned, his destiny hanging by a thread. That thread would be tested at the Second Battle of Panipat. Facing overwhelming odds, the small Mughal army, under the regency of the loyal Bahram Khan, confronted Hemu's massive force. The battle raged, but fate intervened. A chance arrow struck Hemu in the eye, felling the leader and plunging his army into chaos. The victory secured Akbar's crown and set the stage for one of the greatest reigns in history. As a young man, Akbar seized full control, dismissing his powerful regent and embarking on a relentless series of military campaigns. Through strategic genius and personal valor, he vastly expanded the empire. But his true brilliance lay not in conquest, but in governance. He forged alliances with his staunchest adversaries, the Rajput kings, turning them into loyal pillars of his empire through diplomacy and respect. He reorganized the state with the Mansabdari system, creating a merit-based bureaucracy that unified the administration. But Akbar's ambition went beyond territory and politics. He was a seeker of truth, possessed by a profound spiritual curiosity. In his new capital, Fatehpur Sikri, he built the Ibadat Khana, the house of worship, a place where scholars of all faiths, Muslims, Hindus, Christians, Jains, and Zoroastrians could gather for open debate. From these discussions, he distilled a personal philosophy, the Din-e-Ilahi, aiming to transcend religious division and unite his people under a single ethical code. His reign ushered in a golden age of culture. He was a grand patron of art, architecture, and literature, and his court buzzed with the intellect of his Navratnas, or 9 jewels. For nearly 50 years, Akbar ruled not just as a conqueror, but as a unifier and a visionary. He transformed a fragile inheritance into a vast, stable, and prosperous empire, earning his title, Akbar the Great. The son of Akbar the Great, he called himself Jahangir, conqueror of the world. But his true conquests were not on the battlefield. Ascending the throne in 1605, he began his reign with a grand gesture of justice, a golden chain that any subject could pull to bring their grievances directly to the emperor. He was a man of immense curiosity and sensitivity, a stark contrast to his legendary father. While he could be ruthless, as shown when crushing the rebellion of his own son, his soul belonged to the realm of beauty. Jahangir was the ultimate aesthete. He was a passionate naturalist, spending hours in his meticulously designed gardens, observing and documenting the world around him. Under his patronage, Mughal painting reached its zenith, moving beyond portraiture to capture the delicate veins of a leaf or the exotic plumage of a bird with scientific precision. His memoir, the Tuzuki Jahangiri, is a testament to a mind fascinated by the wonders of creation. But the most significant chapter of his reign began in 1611, with his marriage to the brilliant and beautiful Persian widow, Mer-un-Nissa. He named her Nur Jahan, light of the world, and she would soon become the light of the empire itself. Possessing a formidable intellect and political acumen, Nur Jahan rose from the confines of the court to become the de facto ruler. Her name was struck on coins, she issued imperial decrees, and her counsel was law. While Jahangir retreated into a haze of wine and opium, Nur Jahan governed, managed the court's complex politics, and even negotiated with the first English ambassador, Sir Thomas Roe, who sought trading concessions for a fledgling East India Company. This consolidation of power created enemies. Her ambitious stepson, Prince Khurram, the future Shah Jahan, saw her as his chief rival. The court became a web of intrigue as the emperor's health failed and the power struggle intensified. In 1627, the conqueror of the world died, not in his palace but in the mountains of Kashmir, the paradise he so loved. His death left a vacuum, and the reign of the empire's most powerful woman came to an end, paving the way for a new and perhaps more ruthless builder of monuments to seize the throne. He seized the throne through blood and fire, and took the name Shah Jahan, King of the World. His reign would mark the zenith of Mughal grandeur, an era of unparalleled architectural and cultural achievement. At his side was his soulmate and trusted advisor, Empress Mumtaz Mahal. Their love story was the heart of the empire, a partnership that promised a golden age. But in 1631, that golden age was shattered. Mumtaz Mahal died in childbirth, and the emperor's world collapsed. Consumed by a grief that was said to have turned his hair white overnight, Shah Jahan channeled his sorrow into a singular, monumental vision. He would build a memorial worthy of his love, a tear of marble on the cheek of time. For over 2 decades, the empire's resources were poured into constructing the Taj Mahal, an architectural marvel of perfect symmetry and breathtaking beauty, a tomb for his queen and a symbol of his eternal devotion. His ambition didn't stop there. He built a new capital, Shah Jahanabad, with its mighty red fort, and commissioned the fabled peacock throne, a treasure of unimaginable worth. But this splendor came at a staggering cost, draining the imperial treasury and sowing unrest. As Shah Jahan's health began to fail, his 4 sons, who governed the corners of his vast empire, saw their moment. A brutal war for succession erupted. The victor was his 3rd son, the pious and ruthless Aurangzeb. In a final tragic twist, Aurangzeb defeated his brothers, seized the throne, and imprisoned his own father in the Agra fort. For the last 8 years of his life, the king of the world, the great builder, could only gaze from his prison window at the distant silhouette of the Taj Mahal, the monument to his power, and love now a symbol of all he had lost. His reign, which began in ruthless ambition and was defined by love, ended in lonely, silent contemplation of his own magnificent legacy. He was the last of the great Mughals, a man of iron will, unshakable faith, and ruthless ambition. Aurangzeb Alamgir, the conqueror of the world, seized the peacock throne in 1658 after a brutal war against his own kin, imprisoning his father and executing his brothers. Where his predecessors had celebrated art and opulence, Aurangzeb embraced austerity. He was a devout and disciplined ruler who banned music from his court and lived as a virtual ascetic. But this piety came with a hard edge. He dismantled the empire's long-standing policy of religious pluralism, reimposing the hated jizya tax on non-Muslims and demolishing temples, alienating millions and igniting rebellions across the subcontinent. His reign became defined by one all-consuming obsession, the subjugation of the Deccan Plateau. There, he met his most formidable adversary, the brilliant Maratha warrior king, Shivaji Maharaj, whose guerrilla tactics frustrated the lumbering might of the Mughal army. For the last 27 years of his life, Aurangzeb waged a relentless and draining war in the south, moving his entire capital and dragging his empire into a quagmire from which it would never recover. On paper, the empire swelled to its largest ever extent, a vast territory stretching from Kabul to the southern tip of India. But it was a hollow shell. The treasury was bankrupt, the army was exhausted, and the foundations of the state were crumbling under the weight of constant rebellion. In 1707, at the age of 88, the old emperor died in his military camp, a lonely and isolated figure. His final letters were filled with remorse, a bitter acknowledgement of the chaos he was leaving behind. He had conquered more territory than any of his ancestors, yet in doing so, he had sealed the empire's fate. Aurangzeb's death unleashed an immediate and catastrophic war of succession, and the mighty Mughal Empire, stretched to its breaking point, began its swift and irreversible decline. The empire was a memory, the throne a stage. By the mid-19th century, the mighty Mughal dynasty had shrunk to the shadow of one man in one city, Bahadur Shah Zafar, the last emperor, was a king of poets, not of armies. He reigned over a phantom court within Delhi's Red Fort, a pensioner of the British East India Company, his power extending no further than the palace walls. His passion was for the elegance of a verse, not the strategy of a battle. But in 1857, history, violent and unforgiving, came crashing through his gates. Rebellious Indian soldiers, the sepoys, rose up against their British commanders and stormed Delhi. They needed a symbol, a link to the past glory of India, and they chose him. The reluctant 81-year-old poet was proclaimed the leader of the Great Indian Rebellion. For a few chaotic months, the Mughal banner flew once more over Delhi, but it was a doomed cause. The British laid siege to the city, and after months of brutal fighting, they exacted a terrible revenge. The city was sacked and the rebellion was crushed. Zafar was captured, and his sons were executed in cold blood. The emperor himself was put on a humiliating show trial and charged with treason against the very power that had been his keeper. His punishment was not death, but a living oblivion. Stripped of his titles, his family, and his home, he was exiled to Rangoon in Burma. There, the descendant of Akbar and Shah Jahan, the king of the world, spent his final years as a lonely prisoner, scratching his melancholy poetry onto the wall of his wooden prison. He died unknown and was buried in an unmarked grave, a final deliberate act by the British to extinguish the flame of his dynasty. His own verse serves as his most fitting epitaph. How unfortunate is Zafar. For burial, not even 2 yards of land were to be had in the land of his beloved. With his last sigh, the Mughal Empire passed from history into legend.